Chris Swanson on the line from Trojan Sports to help us break down USC football as USC now goes to the second half of the season, finishes out the first half at 5-1, 6 down, 6 to go. The date against Utah at home at the Coliseum. Utah most likely the second best team in the division. I believe they have yet to play Colorado. Maybe UCLA has something to say about it, but I think at this point, even though the Utes took their first loss of the season at home against Stanford, hotly contested game at 23-20. I caught much of it in the second half. And Utah pretty much bringing to the table what we expect of the Utes. You mentioned the physical front seven. They're going to play very sound, fundamentally sound, technique-driven football, hard-hitting, really physical team. Not a whole lot of playmaking ability on the outside. They haven't necessarily replaced Joe Williams, who's was a tremendous back for them over the past couple of years, but they will be a challenge at the Coliseum. USC with a fairly decided talent advantage, but this certainly one that they can't look past.
No, USC can lose this game. I don't think there's any question about that. USC's kind of become a hard team to bet on or to figure out, I think, this year, because outside of that performance against Stanford, where it really looked like USC was a world beater and could compete for anything, absolutely every game has been close. I mean, they've been tied with most every team they've played, going into the fourth quarter. They've had a bunch of battles, and Utah is better than some of those teams. We can expect Utah to be better than some of those teams. And Utah, like you said, they always bring what they bring, exactly what you described. They have a great defense. They play sound, technique-driven football. And honestly, I think their head coach is one of the better head coaches in all of college football. I don't think that you can really dispute that on Kyle Whittingham. I think he's absolutely brilliant. So this is a team that could definitely beat USC. If Cal's tied with USC in the fourth quarter, Western Michigan's tied with USC in the fourth quarter, they almost lose to Texas. They can lose to Utah. There's no question. Now, yes, USC does have a talent advantage, and that's where you think USC should win the game. If you're handicapping it, USC should be the favorite. They're the more talented football team. But, they can lose to anybody on their schedule right now. I think they've proven that through these first 6 games. They're 5-1, great record. Everything's been close. They can lose to anybody. So Utah is definitely a team I think could beat USC this weekend.
It's an apt comment about Kyle Whittingham because much credit is given, let's say, in the Big Ten, Mark Antonio, Michigan State. He gets good recruiting classes. They're solid, but they play way over their heads typically. They get to college football playoffs. They compete for league championships, etc. Bill Snyder at Kansas State. He doesn't get anywhere close to the recruits that Texas and Oklahoma get, but he somehow wins. Kyle Whittingham, not given as much acclaim as those two coaches, but he's kind of the Pac-12 version of that, where the recruiting classes, he doesn't care if they're ranked 45th or 52nd or whatever it is. It just doesn't seem to matter. He knows what his system is, what they're able to do, and he puts the players in place and develops players. So they're going to have less guys necessarily that hit the ground running as like 5-star, first-year true freshmen going to hit the field and play, but he develops them in the early part of their stay in Utah. And then you see a lot of juniors and seniors that are really good, fundamentally sound football players. Troy Williams back at quarterback, hit 20 of 39 against Stanford. He's a bit scattershot, not a elite quarterback, but he's very athletic. Zach Moss, their leading rusher, had 79 against Stanford. And Darren Carrington, a guy that we saw play some big games for the Oregon Ducks, now the leading receiver, called in 7 passes for Utah this past Saturday. Again, a 3-point loss to Stanford. All right, Chris Swanson, Trojan Sports, helping us break down USC football. USC with an important game against the Utes, probably the second best team in the division right now, and trying to, of course, build a gap between them and the rest of the Pac-12 South. Chris, anything else we've missed?
No, I think it's going to be a good game, though, so I'm excited for it as always.
All right, Chris, we appreciate the discussion. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.